Hi there, it's Meonicorn. Today I'm here to do my August wrap-up. As some of you may know, I was in a pretty huge reading slump in August. Actually, I think I'm still in the same reading slump now, and I only finished 3 books, and I also DNF'd 1 book. So I'll just talk about the book that I DNF'd at first to get it out of the way, and the book I DNF'd was You by Caroline Kepnes. And this is the book that I'm pretty surprised that I didn't like it at all. This is a buddy read with me and Rebecca from Rebecca's Grotto, and we both didn't like it. The book is really popular on BookTube if you like thriller or mystery, and I think you probably heard about it. It is written in the first-person perspective, and basically you follow a journey of a sociopath and how he follow a woman and track the woman down on internet and do some bad thing to her and her family and friends. And I know here my opinion probably is controversial, but I didn't find it scary at all. I just think there should be some common sense when we are using internet right now. When the main character tracked down some people online, I find it not surprised at all. And I just found all the characters, including the 2 main characters and all the side characters, are really unlikable. They're just a bunch of awful people and doing some disgusting things. And the plot even get repetitive after you're reading the first 1/3 of the book. So I didn't like the book at exactly halfway. And I think Rebecca continued to reading it, and she also doesn't like the second half. So we both didn't have a great experience on reading this book. However, the experience that we're ranting together about this book is really funny because the book is just awful. And I know this book got a lot of hype on BookTube, and that's the reason I think I picked it up. So after reading this book, I started to rethink my interests on reading thriller and mystery, and I found out that the type of mystery that I like is there's a case and there's a detective, somehow like the classic mysteries like Sherlock Holmes or all the Agatha Christie series. So we have a likable character, usually it's the detective, and we solve the case together. And all the contemporary thrillers is really not my type of thing, although I read a lot of thriller last year and in the beginning of this year. But I really find a thriller book that I love. I usually find the crime and detective mystery that really interests me. Speaking of detective books, I read A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in the beginning of August, and this is a reread for me. I read the entire complete Sherlock Holmes series when I was a child, and it is my first time to read it in English. I think I always say that on my channel, and I really love it. In the middle of this book, they have a lot of background story about the murder, how they grew up in Utah and all the stuff. So I remember that when I was a child and reading those chapters, I did find it boring. But this time, maybe because I went to Utah by myself, and also I have a friend who's a Mormon, so I have some basic understanding about their religion. So I didn't find the middle part boring at all. Instead, I find it really interesting. And I don't know if Arthur Conan Doyle went to Utah by himself. That's something that I want to research more, and I really love this story and give it 5 out of 5 stars. I mean, it's Sherlock Holmes. How could we not loving him? The next book I finished is Exit West by Mohsin Hamid. This is a book that longlisted in the Man Booker Prize, and I think I have a difficulty to rate this book, so far I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I think this is yet another book that the concept is larger than the language. The story is set in a fiction country where they have their civil wars, and our 2 main characters, a male and a female, fall in love during the wartime. After they getting together, they're starting to hear the rumor of the doors, and after passing through those doors, you can go to other country and basically starting your new life. And I think the main theme of this book is how refugees of their country having difficulties in wartime and how they started their new life in the new place. As much as I like the concept, I found this book hard to read. I think the author is trying to play with the language a lot, so he made the reader having a difficult time to make the connection with the characters. And I do find the life of the characters are really difficult, and basically they're scary for their life all the time, but I just don't care about them. This book has also started a lot lot of discussion on the Goodreads group Man Bookery, and I think some of the discussion are really excellent. So I'll link the group down below if you want to check out those information. And also because I have already finished some of the Man Booker Prize book, so I think I will just do a more detailed review about this book on one of my Man Booker Prize planned videos. So to sum up, I like the concept but not the language. And the last book I finished is The Trouble with Ghosts and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. And this is a very lovely and cute summer contemporary reading, and it is also a historical fiction. The story was set on England 1976, and I was buddy read with Irina from Beautiful Pages because she currently living at England. So we have some great discussion about how this book is very British. The story was set in this little town which all the neighbors know each other, and one day one of the women in the town just disappeared with no information left behind, and people don't understand why she disappeared, and their two children, Grace and Tilly, started to investigate the event. However, what they didn't know is another event from 9 years ago somehow has some connection with the woman's disappearing. I enjoyed this book a lot when reading it, especially we have like two mysteries going on all the time. So the author left some clues in each chapter, and we as the reader have the responsibility to find it out. And because of the main characters of this book are two 10-year-old children and they only know a part of the story, so I find myself often can predict what happened in the past or in the future before the two main characters, but in a good way. I didn't find the story was boring because it's predictable. In the opposite, I found it's quite interesting. And besides all the mysteries, what the book really wants to discuss is how people set up their believing system on top of others but not on the facts. And the book was also about fitting in. Not only Grace and Tilly, the two main character girls, needs to fit in their school, but also other people fitting in the small town. And I was laughing out loud when reading some of the things. For example, there are two India-British people who moved to the town, and my favorite thing in this book is the townspeople asked the two Indian-British people, "Where are you from?" And they said, "We're from England." And they said, "Oh, but where you really from?" But then they got so embarrassed of themselves and hurried to explain. I think you maybe didn't have this kind of experiences. I have even faced people asking me, "Where are you really from?" I don't know, maybe it's irrelevant, but it is very realistic. And one thing I didn't like this book is I think the two 10-year-old girl, especially Grace, is more mature of her age. So sometimes when she speaks, I didn't see a little girl standing there. I just see an adult or a teenager. So it's my one complaint about this book. And I have another complaint is I'm reading this from the US edition, and because we're reading certain chapters a day, so me and Irina was constantly discussing, and there are so many characters introduced at the beginning of the book, and I just one day chatted to her that, "Oh, I hope this book has a map." And she was like, "What? Your book doesn't have a map?" I was like, "No, I don't have a map." And she's reading the UK edition, and they did have a map, which helps a lot because this book is written in a format that the author assumes you seeing certain house number, you can realize who was living in that house. So the map was really helpful, and I didn't have the map. If I didn't complain with Irina, I wish this book having a map, I would not know that the UK edition has a map. So I don't know why the US edition just delete the map, and sometimes they put chapters in a random order or cut the chapters differently from the UK edition. I just don't understand why they did that. However, that doesn't stop me from enjoying this book, so I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. And that's all the book I have read in August. Let me know what book you enjoyed in August. And if you have any tips on getting over a reading slump, please let me know. I really need your help. And until next time, happy reading. Bye!